So last week, some people stopped talking to me, and some people that have never talked to me before started talking to me, whilst other people that talk to me regularly started talking about my hair. And I think this is the right place for me to talk about all of that. Welcome to this week's Table Talk. Yes, hello everyone, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name, as you all know, is Jason and this is Table Talk Day. Right then, what a week. Lots going on, not as much going on as I would like, and yeah, plenty to talk about. Don't really know where we're going to start with it all, but I suppose we have to rewind and talk about what happened last week. And what was happening last week from after I recorded this Wednesday last week was there was a lot of conversation about that Airfix Stalwart that we talked about last week. So the Stalwart's been a topic of conversation broadly across the modelling community. Doesn't matter whether you're interested in it or not, you will have come across those conversations. And from my point of view, I've only watched two other reviews of the kit, Moz and Peter Oxley. I believe there's plenty of others out now. I haven't watched any of those. And from my point of view, I had a lot of people that I have never heard from before giving me their view through my first impression. So there's lots of people talking to me that had not talked to me before, and we've said many times that around about 80% of my videos, and I'm sure that's fairly typical for all YouTube channels, are watched by non-subscribers. So it's people who are either interested in the topic or that video has popped up in their little feeder at the end of a video to say this is what's next, or has come up in their recommendations list if they hit the home button. You know, all of these things that drive people, and then they come across it and go, oh, that might be interesting because it's new, click on it. So, you know, there's lots of different ways that people are coming to those videos, which means you've always got some new people, and the majority of people do not leave comments and do not hit the like button. They just watch the video or an element of the video and then move on. And they use YouTube as a free to roam, free to watch resource. You know, and we all do it. I do it as well. I might start watching a video and go, well, this is what I was expecting, or I'm not enjoying it, or I don't like how it's formatted, and I turn it off and find someone else. Do it all the time. So there's always constantly people coming in. You know you've hit a nerve when people start commenting, and I've had lots of comments on that Stalwart. I've also had to block a lot of people. So just in case you're watching and maybe you're blocked, firstly, you may not know you're blocked, because I don't think you get a notification to say, hey, Model Kit Stuff just blocked you, watch your behaviour. In fact, it's no longer called blocking, it's called hide user from channel. And what you do is you click on that, and that means any posts that they have put onto the channel previously, including the one that's led you to do that, will disappear, and any future comments that they leave won't appear. And so what happens is they can still watch my videos, I can still get revenue from the advertising, or from the Premium Plus if that's what you are. And you may not know that you've been blocked. Sometimes I will reply and say, listen, don't like your behaviour, don't like your wording, you don't need to behave like this, by the way, I'm blocking you. Other times I just hit block and make it go away. You know, we all get it, but when you get a subject that's emotive and people possibly don't agree with your point of view, then, you know, you're more likely to get people behaving inappropriately. And I've had a lot of that, and I know the other two channels I've just mentioned have had a greater or lesser degree of that as well. And, you know, it's just par for the course. We've talked about it before. I don't want to labour on it. So I've got all these people talking to me, and most people are leaving very valid thoughts, very valid views, speculations that they're claiming are facts, all that sort of stuff's going on. I don't mind any of that. We leave it there because other people read it, other people comment, so on and so forth. And, you know, I have my view, and if you disagree with my view, that is fine. And I don't mind if you share that you disagree with my view, if you're constructive about it. I mind if you're personal about it. So when you come on and say, but here in the real world, you know, that you're needlessly starting to be nasty. Even with that having to swear or anything like that, you're needlessly saying that. When someone starts their message with, what was the other one? Duh. Sorry, you're going to get blocked because that's not appropriate. If I walked into Telford and you bumped into me at Telford and you decided you wanted to talk to me about the Stalwart video that I did, would you start by going, hey you Stalwart video, duh? No, you wouldn't, because you don't know me and you could be risking a punch in the face. But if you're hundreds of miles away or even just round the corner and you're on a keyboard and I'm out of sight, you're a bit more daring. And, you know, I get it, but don't get it. So I would never speak to someone disrespectfully or not intentionally anyway. And so I don't really understand. So I just block you. So you may be blocked and watching this and not realise. So if you want to test it, leave a comment and see if the comment appears. So I've done quite a bit of blocking. What seems to have happened with the Stalwart is two real camps have emerged. And I think there's different reasons behind both camps. So there's the camp that I'm in, that the kit that I have received was not fit for purpose and shouldn't have been sent out, and therefore should be either replaced or refunded. We're going to come back to that later on. So there is a definite camp of people saying, yep, in 2025 it's not acceptable to get all these sync issues. And, you know, largely people are of the same mind if they're in that camp, that, you know, we expect better than what that is. Then the other camp seems to be, I've got this kit, it has sync issues to a greater or lesser degree, they've all got them, I'm not bothered, or I'm going to fix it. And that's where you've got a lot of diversity as to why that is. And from the comments that I've read and received, and some that I've received and blocked, my view is that is a big wide spectrum. So you've got some YouTube channels, I understand, I haven't seen any, that are showing you how to solve the problem, which I can understand why those channels would do that, because they're basically sharing the skill needed, the way to go about it, and they think that's going to get people to watch their channel, that people will be interested in it. So I fully get that. There are other people that seem to just go, whatever, and accept it, and they're probably people of my generation or older who grew up in the 70s and 80s building lots of kits. that had massive amounts of sink in it, and they're used to restoring it, so they're not bothered. And it's almost too much effort to say, you know what, refund it, especially if you really want to build that subject. So I get that as well. You know, I get why you'd receive it, possibly be disappointed you've got so much, but would keep it and go on and rectify it. If you've got the skills, you're used to doing it, you really want to build the subject, totally get that as well. So both the it's not fit for purpose, return it, and you know, it's not great, but I'll keep it, completely get that as well. And then you've got a tranche of people who are saying, well, it's not that bad. And they're the people I've got the biggest concern for, because people that are taking that and then saying to other people, especially if they've got a channel, do you know what, this isn't that bad, that bothers me a little bit more, because you're almost saying this is a standard that's acceptable, and I don't think it is. Now that again is just my personal point of view, and I understand that people might have a different point of view and that's acceptable, but I think that's the camp that's causes the most confusion. You know, it could cause people who are very unhappy with what they've got to think, I can't return this because actually it's going to be deemed as an acceptable standard, and it's causing confusion in my mind. So I've been told, and again, I've not seen any channels do that. I know Moz on his Monday live stream did, the title of it is it really all that bad? He's been building it, so he can take it from a perspective of pulling it together. And what have you. I've not watched that video. I'm aware it's there. I've not watched it. Unfortunately, I don't watch some live streams that some channels put out because of some of the people that are regularly invited on there. I think is the most diplomatic way I can say that. So at the end of the day, there are some channels I understand that are sort of trying to play down how bad it is, and I think that's adding confusion. So, and again, that's just my view. So if you're in that camp of, oh, it's a bit disappointing we've got all this sync, but I can sort it out, and then you've got a YouTube channel, I could understand you looking at it and going, yeah, it's issues, we shouldn't have it, but it's not that bad, we can sort it out. I can understand that thought process. But from the point of view of the manufacturer, should we be receiving a kit like that? I think it's very clear that it's no, we shouldn't. And I also think it's very important that the manufacturer gets the appropriate feedback that we're not happy. Otherwise, they will continue to do it out. And I go back, and I've said this on camera before, on video before, I go back to last year at Telford, and I was talking to Dale of Airfix, and I was talking about the possibility of re-releasing a new tool, Airfix, and he said they'd talked about it, but couldn't quite justify it, and that the sales of the HMS Victory were dropping. So I challenged his view of that by saying, well, that's because of the condition of your old kit. And I bought a re-release of the kit, and it had so much sync and so much flash and so much distorted parts that it wasn't buildable, and I threw it away. Now I'd bought it on eBay, so I hadn't bought it direct, so I didn't really have any way of returning it, and I had attempted to start building it, and I just threw it away because it wasn't enjoyable to build. So, you know, I put that to Dale, and he clearly didn't accept that, and it just worries me that Airfix think that sync is acceptable. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. It's just speculation at this point. But those are the camps that have come out from the Stalwart. To be honest, I've got a bit fed up of the whole Stalwart conversation. I've still got it in a box in my living room. So, as you know, I've reached out to Airfix. I've gone to customer service. I've had a response from someone called Liz, who on her email is head of customer service. And the last thing I heard from them was last Thursday, when they said they would investigate it. And if it was a one-off limited issue, they'd send me a replacement kit, which would be desirable to me. Otherwise, they would arrange a refund. Well, I haven't heard from them since. After I recorded all of the video footage for Table Talk, I got an email from Airfix. And from Liz, head of customer service, and what she said was they'd found one in the office and that they were going to send it to me, and that there was no need for me to return the kit that I've got, and that I could dispose of that as I saw fit. So what I'm going to do, we're going to receive the replacement kit, and I'm going to do a little comparison video and just talk about the fact that Airfix customer service have dealt with it, and we can go from there and see what they think a good one looks like. That probably means that this isn't a problem that's affecting all kits, or might be affecting kits in varying degrees. Certainly some people said to me that their kit wasn't as bad as mine. So look out for another video on the Stalwart as soon as I get the one from Airfix. So that was what was going on, bumping along all week, and is still bumping along now. I'm still getting comments on it. It's had a lot of views, as you'd expect, that video. It's the talk of the community. But I'm a bit fed up of the conversation and want it all to go away now, so I'm quite happy to move on. So we will move on to Sunday, and on Sunday I put a little trailer out for the Space 1999 build, and at the point that I'm recording this, it's had 422 views and a 98% like rate. So basically I paid 78 pence to get the piece of music of an orchestra playing the season 1 intro to Space 1999, which it claimed gave me the right to use it publicly. So I've taken the front end of that piece of music and the back, a section towards the back of that piece of music, bunged it together, put some video and imagery over the top of it to pull it together. And some things like the red alert at the front was a little bit complex to put together, because it's a photograph of the red alert screen from Space 1999. Then I have to put a blank screen in, so you actually have to put a black screen into the software. Then you've got to equally space it and put the picture in again, then equally space it and put a blank in, and do that several times to get the flashing effect. So it took a bit of time to construct it, and basically introducing it to people who may not have come across the channel. 80% of people watching it won't know about us, and get some subscribers in ready, waiting for that next big build. And so we put that out on the Sunday, and as I loaded it up onto YouTube, it comes up with a copyright. And what it's actually saying is I have the right to use the music publicly. However, I don't have the right to monetize my video. So I generate no revenue from that trailer video. So that's not a biggie for me. But it does mean that I can't use the music in my intro to the build series, which is why I really bought the music in the first place. So that's a bit disappointing. It's only 78p, so I'm not massively fussed. Sorry, I'm just making sure that's okay. I'm not massively fussed from that money point of view, but it's a bit disappointing. It means that the build videos will use standard intro music and what have you. We'll take the standard intro that you've seen this morning and maybe just extend it a little bit. I do plan with that build series of building the Eagle to do something a little bit different, so and make it sort of a bit TV series centric. So the first video will be an introduction to the subject and will give you my view of Space 1999, why I love it, why I want to build this model. And we're going to talk about UFO as well, because I've come to understand, having now watched the TV series after several people, including Peter Oxley, recommended it, and watching a couple of interviews with Jerry Anderson himself, I now understand how the two are intrinsically linked, how one becomes the other, and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to share my thoughts on that, on UFO, Space 1999, how I got into it, why we're building this. So that'll be the sort of the first video, and introducing the build and my intentions and that sort of stuff. Then the second video will actually be the construction of it. So that's the plan, and we're going to have a bit of fun with that, because Peter said, Peter Oxley, just to be clear which Peter we're talking about, Peter Oxley said a horrendous thing that I'm not sure I can forgive him for. He said that Space 1999 was boring. We will be dealing with that in the first episode of the build series, so look out for that in September. The roasting of Peter Oxley. Looking forward to it personally. But joking aside, not joking. We will. I'm gonna stoke the grill. So we've got that coming. So I'm aiming to start that in September, which is not that far away, and it's when modelers start coming back from their seasonal breaks and stuff, and the channel gets busier in terms of views and things like that. So that'll be very, very exciting and very good. It does mean that wherever I am with the tank, it'll get paused. So even though I've started the tank, you might not see the tank until after the Eagle, because I need to do it in that September slot. But I'm hoping it won't take too long to come together. So I think it's more clean-up time than anything. So all of that said, that's what the Sunday thing was. Just getting people prepared for it, whetting appetites. Then on Monday we had a first impressions of the Meng Kuberwagen half-track. 135 vehicle with 3D printed parts. The polar opposite of the Stalwart. It's got a modern approach, extremely high standard moulded parts, well executed, well thought through, cracking little kit. I think I said stunning on my thumbnail, and it was. I mean, the 3D printing was very high standard. The design of the kit is really well done, and the moulding of the kit is really well done. And even though it's a much smaller vehicle than the Stalwart, it's coming in at a similar price tag, even with that huge amount of 3D printed parts. And that's another thing that's starting to bother me a little bit. 40 quid for that Stalwart, and you know, that's a lot of money for a kit that's got issues, whereas 40 quid for that small vehicle is also a lot of money, but you're getting all those 3D printed parts, which is expensive. I've now been informed by a good friend of the channel, Jeff Donahue, who is learning by his own experience about 3D printing. Go and check out his channel, by the way. He's doing a 3D printed 88 flak and with bogies and what have you, and I don't know, half scale or something ridiculous. I forget the scale. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. He's going to have to move his wife out just when he's built it. It's going to be the model of the wife, I think. You know, space wise, you can't fit them both in. So I suspect the follow-on episodes will be building a granny flat for the wife or something like that. Don't know. You know I'm joking, Jeff, but it's big. You know, he's not going small scale. It's big. And anyway, Jeff tells me that if you want to get it very, very smooth and not have the layering witness, you have to. It takes a lot more time. Therefore, it's a lot more expensive for the manufacturer. So, you know, we've got very high quality, expensive 3D printed parts, which obviously bumps the price up. But I didn't bat an eyelid at that cost. I mean, it's under 40, it's 35 or 37 or something like that. I paid for it, I seem to remember. But I didn't bat an eyelid at it. Why? Because the kit is absolutely perfect. In terms of the quality and what have you. Yeah, there's some little things that I prefer them to have done differently. There's never a perfect kit. The jerry cans are probably the Achilles heel of the kit, I think. And some people commented they'd like to have seen, given that it's sort of set up for winter use, primarily, they'd like to have seen the roof up rather than the roof down, or at least have the option with the side flexible sides and windows. You can get lots of aftermarket roofs, but finding the side windows are a lot more difficult. So yeah, so there's one or two people with a few quibbles. You know, there's never a perfect kit, but I didn't bat an eyelid at the price. Why? Because the kit is so good. And you know, why do so many YouTube channels have Airfix kits on? Because they're accessible and they're cheap. And I just wonder if Airfix, there's probably a place for pocket money kits and there's probably a place for cheap kits, but I think Airfix is missing more expensive kits for the more experienced modeler, which have more detail, more focus. So I know, I mean, I've raised this with Airfix staff before, a bit like Edward do. You have a standard kit and then you have kit with extras chucked in, which costs more, and then you've got a choice. That's maybe a conversation for another day. So that's what we did Monday. The Meng 135 Cooper Wagon half track. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's a stunner. There was only one person who went on there and said, no, don't like it. Everybody else was saying, look, that looks great, and several people said they were going to add it to their stash despite the fact they didn't need it. So all good. That then gets us to Wednesday, part 28 of the Sherborne, and I can now tell you it's going to be 30 parts. So I've already edited part 29, and with the closing pictures and closing thoughts on the model, 30 episodes. So I know exactly where we are with Sherborne now. 28, we've done various little lines on there. 29, we do rat lines in a fair bit more detail. We have touched on rat lines, how I go about doing them, what to avoid, and that's been enough to allow people to get going. But we come back to rat lines and do a little bit more on them, because I think it's probably the second most difficult thing after planking, in my view. I mean, other people, when they come out of the other end of that build, are going to have different views on what they found tricky. But yeah, lots of people still ploughing on, seeing some nice pictures in the social group. So that was Wednesday. Now, as it lies at the moment, I'm intending for Friday to be the next part of the Junkers. I have the material and stuff. But at this time on Wednesday, not yet edited. Shouldn't take me too long. That's something I can do Wednesday or Thursday evening. But I've also got to edit this and turn this into a video for Saturday. So I am a little bit back against the wall. Not unusual. So that's almost what happened last week, with the exception of the one other person that stopped talking to me, which is Toyota. So on Friday of last week, I got a message to say my new car was in Derby. So they've sent me messages all the way through the process. So they sent me a message to say my order had been received by the factory. Sent me a message to say the car had gone into production. They sent and that it was now going to go through X many processes. Then they sent me a message to say that my car had been built and was about to go through 2,000 quality inspections. Then they sent me a message to say that the car had left the factory and was going to the logistics hub. Then I got this message on Friday last week saying your car is in Derby. And I haven't heard anything since. So in my head, I was right. Car's in Derby. It's being delivered to the main dealer in Macclesfield. Because I know you're probably thinking, why Macclesfield? There's several dealers closer to me than that. Warrington's closer. Preston's closer. You know, there are dealers closer. I go to Preston for my servicing. But I get a much better response from Macclesfield. I've been buying my Toyotas from them for over 25 years. They know me, I know them. I feel I always get a good deal from them, and I can largely do a lot of it remotely, so all the documents and things are electronically signed and that sort of stuff, so I don't have to constantly bob in and out of the showroom or anything. So I pretty much will pick the car up from there, and that'll be the first visit to the showroom. Anyway, Derby to Macclesfield. I've not heard anything since Friday, so what's that, 2, 4, 5 days. That's starting to concern me a little bit. I could push the car from Derby to Macclesfield in that time. So absolutely, because they said we will next inform you when it gets to your main dealer. So in my head, that's going to arrive at the main dealer Saturday, maybe Monday if they don't work weekends. Then they're going to register the vehicle and tax the vehicle. They can do that in a day. Then they're going to contact me so I can get insurance, and we're going to agree a date for pickup. So I thought I'd be picking it up this weekend. I thought while you're watching this on Saturday, I'd be down in Macclesfield picking up the new car. That was what was in my head. But it's not looking like that's going to happen when I've not heard anything from them on Wednesday. So where we are, I don't know. I'm just starting to wonder now if someone's wheeled it off the back of the transporter and ploughed it into a phone box or something, and they quickly put another one in build at the factory in France. I don't know. Where is it? What's happened to it? Where's it gone? Don't know. But there's no way it should still be in Derby. So it must be at Macclesfield, and someone's not pressed the little button to send him a message to say where it is. So, but it does make you wonder, has something gone wrong? So Toyota stopped speaking to me as well. Right then, shall we talk about what happened on the modelling bench? We did some work on 2 different models this week. Let's start with the Lady Eleanor. And you can see we have progressed the planking of the Lady Eleanor. So this is the cut to length size. So we're now just going under the waterline here, but not quite at the sternum bow. So as we go under the waterline, I'm going to stop doing the cut to length because it doesn't matter. It's getting painted. We're just going to plank it along. Now you could carry on doing it cut to length and doing what I've shown you when you come to watch the videos. That's absolutely possible and desirable, especially if you want to varnish the whole thing. But in this instance, because I'm actually going to paint the whole thing and I'm just showing you how to do it, I will go to full, I'll go to half strips for the rest of it, like I'm doing on the other side. But I will go one level below the waterline just in case there's any discrepancies in where I put the waterline on the outside after sanding. But you can see it's going together really quite nicely. We've got nice tapering there. It all looks good and proper. I have sanded the middle section and put little bolt details on it, and then I just dipped my finger in some water and wiped it over the wood, took a photograph, put it in the members area, said, look, this is what I'm going to show you what you can do. And it just looked like matte varnish over it because it was a bit damp. But yeah, it's coming on nicely. On the other side, where I'm just cutting the planks in half and chucking them on, I have shown some video footage of that. I've got quite far down on the bow before I've had to start tapering, about 8 strips down, 8 or 9 before I've started tapering, whereas on the stern we started tapering after what, 2, 4, after 5. So if you're doing a full strip you start tapering about 5, but by cutting it in half you have half as much aggro really, because you can just keep banging them in on the bow side. It's just changing shape now, just having to put a little chamfer on so that you get a nice tight fit. But yeah, so we're about halfway through the second planking now on the lady, so that's nice progress, and I'm chucking them on as fast as I can, but because I want to sort of get past that, because we're going to focus on the other elements in the build. But the first video is edited other than header footer, and we need to then look at I've forgotten what I was going to say. But I reckon I've probably got enough video footage to just carry on once the Sherborne's finished. So I had talked about a break for a couple of weeks. I don't think there's a need to do that. I might, just to make sure that the planking's done and I've got all that footage done, because once I've got through there everything else is a little bit quicker. That's the time consuming bit of that model. So that is progressing nicely, no issues, really enjoying it. Yunkers, nearly done. By the time you're watching this, I'm hoping it'll be finished by the end of Saturday maybe. It's almost done. So this wing, other than a bit of weathering on the aluminium aspect on the wing end, so wing end needs a little bit of weathering, the rest of it is done, and doesn't it look nice? Decals down, gloss coated. The main aircraft pretty much done. We've got windscreens to put in. Got a little bit of weathering to do in one or two places, washes and bits and pieces. Wheels to go on. I've said windscreens to go on, door to go on, and then door handles on 2 doors. And the propeller. So that's all we've got left to do with that. She's looking pretty splendid. She's all come out okay. Decals have been as tricky as expected, if I'm honest. Not gone as well as I would have liked, but also certainly initially better than I hoped for. And then propeller, we've got to do the wood painting on that. So we've put a base coat down, we've sealed it in gloss, so it's ready for the oil, what are they called? Not streaking, the other ones, the little oil brushes. So we'll do that and do my usual technique for wood effect, and we'll do it a bit lighter. I'm going a bit orange rather than red brown on that one, which is in keeping with the image in the instructions. A little bit of a dust effect on the exhaust and we're done. So that'll be done next table talk. You'll be seeing the finished model. And I've got to be honest, I've veered off the instructions a little bit. So paint scheme A is what we've done, and all the decals are paint scheme A, except for that one. I really wanted it on there, so that's from paint scheme 2. It says Junkers. I want it on there. I think it looks awesome. It's my model. I'll do as I please. So anybody that says, oh, you've put that decal on incorrectly, I know. I did it on purpose. So in terms of what I'm going to be working on the modelling this week coming, my priority is get the Junkers finished. I want to get a bit more planking done. I want to get that done in quick order. We're going to jump onto the Panzer 1, and I've done lower and upper hull. So the next thing is build the turret up. Then I'm going to build up the wheels, clean up any other parts, and we're ready for paint. So I'd like to try and get that done during the course of this weekend, and we'll do the planking as and when I've got moments in the week ahead. That then gets me to a position the following week where we jump back onto Scharnhorst and finish the main guns. That's where I'm up to. That's the plan for the week ahead. So, yeah. So what's coming up next week? Well, we're going to start on Monday, all things being equal, me having enough time to do the editing. On the Monday, we have first impressions of 2 sci-fi kits, lumping those together. They're almost identical kits, one's slightly different to the other, from a cottage industry manufacturer. We did feature them a little while ago on Table Talk when I first got them, but yeah, we're going to be having a look at those. I'm really excited about those. I've just filmed the first impressions actually, and yeah, so I've got that coming up on the Monday. Wednesday we plan to do part 29, the penultimate part of Sherborne, and then Friday, I don't know, it's gonna be either Scharnhorst part 28, is it, I think? Yeah, Scharnhorst 28, which I think I've got material for, or it's gonna be Junkers 7, or we could do the final part of Sherborne. Don't know. Got options there. Don't know. Yeah. So that's the plan for next week, and it's quite loose. So all things could change. What is it? Anything could happen in the next half hour. Right then, I did say that some people that have been talking to me for a while suddenly started talking about my hair. So we should perhaps very quickly talk about last week's Table Talk and why I had hair that got everyone talking. Well, what had happened is I'd recorded Table Talk and I hadn't loaded it up because I'd recorded it the day after I got the Stalwart kit, and I was still absolutely smouldering and I was pretty angry, and I decided I didn't want to put it out. So instead I did a live stream. So I went and got up, had a shower, came downstairs. Everyone else in the house is asleep. So I'm thinking, well, we'll do the live stream and get that recorded while the house is still quiet. Because the bathroom's steamed up and I can't get in the bedroom, I haven't seen a mirror. So I haven't fixed my hair. And my hair just was left as I dried it. So people thought that was a change of hairstyle. No, I have, Spikes is very 90s and they ain't coming back. So yeah, it did cause 1 or 2 people to comment on their hair. I didn't even notice it until the live stream was switched off and I started watching it again to make sure it had gone up okay, and I thought, oh, look at my hair. So I didn't even know. I went all the way through that, talking to the camera. I've got a screen immediately next to the camera lens. I can see what you can see right now. I didn't spot my hair for that hour and whatever it was, hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes. So that's why we ended up doing a live. There is an option to monetize live, but it doesn't seem to work very well. And so far, even though I've clicked monetization on, it hasn't generated any money. I don't know. So I don't do live streams very often because they don't generate any money and they're a big effort and a big use of your time. However, I do understand that they are fun for the viewers, and Peter and I talked about doing one in the summer holidays when we last did one back at Easter. So it's my turn to host, which means potentially we'd be on Peter's territory come Christmas, New Year time, which will suit me because Christmas and New Year is very, very busy. So yeah, watch this space. Nothing agreed at this stage, but I've got 2 weeks off back end of August, so maybe around the UK bank holiday, possibly, don't know, need to talk to Peter. So I thought this week we would talk about brand loyalty. So I've got a little list of topics that we're going to talk about on Table Talk, and brand loyalty was one, and I think it very nice fits into the aftermath of Stalwart Gate. So do I have brand loyalty? Do you have brand loyalty? And if so, why? There are people that clearly have brand loyalty. There are people that doesn't matter what you say, they're always going to say Tamiya's the best, even though that's clearly slipping, and Tamiya are clearly walking away from being a model manufacturer right now. Now I say that not because they've announced anything, not because they've reached out to me and said, hey Jason, by the way, you can tell everyone we're not interested in model kits anymore. It's clear by their behaviours they're no longer interested. When they did their big end of year thing that I caught some months back now, maybe even the start of the year, I forget, time goes so quick, all they talked about was radio control. And you just have to look at what they're issuing. They're paying lip service to static models. And there's nothing exciting from my point of view come out of Tamiya in ages, and there's been a big increase of slightly reworked old kits, which has been a staple for them for a few years. So they are milking static model kits and the tools and paints without putting too much effort into new stuff. But if we think about brand loyalty, there are, all of that I've just said about Tamiya doesn't affect whether you like a brand or not. And so I'm sort of interested, and I see it very much like politics. So I would say there is 3 sort of camps when it comes to brand loyalty. You've got some people that clearly are a fan of a brand, and a bit like a political party where they're the sort of people that always vote for this political party. It doesn't matter what their policies are or who the personalities are, they always vote that way, and possibly their parents voted that way, and they're dogmatic about it, and that's what they do. And I think when it comes to model kits, there are people like that. There are people you see that build a Tamiya kit, followed by a Tamiya kit, followed by slightly older Tamiya kit, followed by a Tamiya kit. So there are people with that dogmatic, blinkered, I build, and there's going to be different reasons for that. The engineering's good, they're dead easy to put together, so I always build Tamiya. Never any quality issues, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, I totally get it. And there are other people that have brand loyalty to other brands. You see a lot of people building Ryefield models. God awful kit when I built one. But you see lots of people banging on about that, and they're really bought into. I get a piece that's got an 8-directional slide moulding, and completely missing the fact that they don't need it, and they're just being sold gimmicks, and they're buying into gimmicks, and they think they're getting something special and amazing, and they get a ton of plastic they don't need in the box that's waste, and all of that sort of stuff. They miss it because they just love the brand. So that's the other camp. They sort of the blinkered in love with it. Then you've got the people at the other end of the spectrum who I still class it as brand loyalty, even though it's not quite a brand, but they like to build old kits they built when they were kids, kits from that time period, or kits of a particular type. So you've got people that only build battleships, and people that only build aircraft, and it's a sort of a type loyalty, and then you've got a swathe of people in the middle who are like floating voters, and they sort of, I'll try this and then I'll try that and I'll try this, and I tend to be in that middle section. I tend to be there because I build for different reasons. So when I buy, it's a bit different now. I have a channel because I sometimes buy kits because I think people watching the channel will like to see that, rather than I really want to build that. And that people might mistake me for being a big Airfix fan, and I on one hand I am, and on another hand I'm not. So I'm a fan of Airfix because I grew up with Airfix kits as well as Matchbox kits. In fact, I built more Matchbox kits, but Airfix is that sort of the original modelling brand for me. It's like your first Doctor Who. Whoever you grew up with as your Doctor Who is your Doctor, and they're the best one. For me, that's Tom Baker. Other people will say John Pertwee and so on and so forth, depending on your age. But for me, Tom Baker. So for me, Airfix, and that's the brand I want to see succeed. But not at any cost, obviously. And so I wouldn't say I was loyal to the brand, but I'm a sort of a cheerleader of the brand, put it that way. So I don't think I have brand loyalty. There are some brands that you will see that I absolutely build relatively regularly, and there's reasons for that. And there are brands that you'll see that I don't build relatively regularly or at all, and there's reasons for that as well. So I'm a floating voter. So if their subject matter is something I'm interested in, then I will buy it. So Delta II aircraft, very interested in that. It's a Dora Wings kit. I'll buy it. Simple as that. If that had been brought out by Airfix, I'd have bought the Airfix one. If it had been brought out by Hasegawa, I'd have brought the Hasegawa one. I don't care. It's the subject matter I'm interested in. When you've got multiple subject matters, let's say, for example, Titanic, then I'm interested in who's likely to have done the best job, and I'll do a bit of research. And again, I will buy what's best. If I'm trying to get really accurate, then you're going to build the Minicraft kit because it's the best one on the market. So even though I like Airfix and Airfix sell a Titanic, I won't buy the Airfix one. The Airfix one is an Academy one anyway, and the Academy one's probably the second best one, but there is a better one, so I'll go with that. So I don't think I have brand loyalty. Now, I do like Tamiya kits. I sometimes find them a bit boring, but I'm building the Panzer 1 right now. That was a 2024 new tool, and it's really refreshing after building the Mini Art Junkers, and the Mini Art what was it called? The little three-wheeler that we did, the little diorama. It's really refreshing. It slots together like a jigsaw. So sometimes boring works for me. And actually, in this instance, I want to get through the build really quickly and get to the painting bit because that's the main reason for me. So it's ticking boxes right now, and it's fueling my injection of positivity into Plastic Mojo. So that's all good, obviously. But then at the same time, I build a lot of trumpeter kits. Why? Because trumpeter are prolific at putting ships out. They don't particularly do a great job of them a lot of the time, but they're there and they're often the only option. So yeah, I do that. So I personally don't have brand loyalty, and I think most people that have brand loyalty will occasionally buy outside of that brand, even if it just reconfirms why they usually buy that brand. So I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong. I'm just more intrigued. You know, I see a lot of people bigging up Tamiya. I understand it, but they're not always right. You know, just because Tamiya put a kit out doesn't mean it's the best kit ever. You know, you can compare it to other manufacturers, and I think Tamiya have slipped behind other manufacturers, not in terms of the quality of the product, but in terms of marketing, promoting the product, and what have you. I think other companies such as Airfix are doing a much better job of marketing right now. Revell are picking their game up at marketing, but they're not picking their game up in terms of kit quality. So, you know, the two have to go hand in hand. And in the main, putting the Stalwart to one side, Airfix have been progressing on both fronts very, very well. And, you know, most of the time I can't speak more highly of Airfix. The Stalwarts are sort of an exception that proves the rule in many ways. So do I have brand loyalty? No. Do I have favourite brands? Sort of. But that's driven by what the brands are doing rather than I dogmatically want to buy this brand. So yeah, I mean, there are brands I keep away from. So I had a bad experience with RFM. I don't care what anyone says. It was absolute junk, that kit, on so many different fronts, and the separate aftermarket I bought, that I will never touch an RFM kit again. Rodin, wasn't impressed with their quality, so unless there's a big change, I won't buy a Rodin kit again. Revell, I'd have to seriously want it. I do have a couple of Revell kits. I've got a U-boat, I've got their Turpits, which is very nice. But generally their kits are a bit poor in terms of engineering quality. So I generally wouldn't buy a Revell kit unless it was something very special. Or a re-release of a Matchbox kit, which are generally their best kits. Edward I don't buy because I don't like their new way of doing decals, so I wouldn't touch them. And that's probably about it. I'd try everybody else's. So I'm interested. Do you consider that you've got brand loyalty, or have you got subject loyalty? Is it, you know, if you look at Jeff Donahue's channel, for example, Jeff won't mind me saying this, he primarily builds trucks, things with wheels on. That's clearly what pushes his buttons, and he does them very, very well. He has had a go at a ship. It's a Shelf Queen right now. He's got different projects on. He's building this great big 3D printed flat gun that we talked about. It's got wheels on. So, you know, he's clearly got an interest in one area, and that's what he likes to build. So, you know, we're all slightly different is what I'm trying to say. I try and have a bit of a spectrum, and I think that's good for my mojo, doing something different. So, you know, we're just about to do some sci-fi. That's very different than anything we've done on the channel for a while. And then we'll have done 2 vehicles. Sci-fi will definitely be up for another aircraft, even though we've done this. So there's, you know, don't know, but it might be that when I come to look at my stash, I go, you know what, let's do that digger or something like that. So I don't know. It depends on what I'm feeling. So having different subjects in the stash is helpful for me. When it comes to wooden kits, though, I've got a lot more brand loyalty, and that is driven by quality and build experience. And until fairly recently, I was a bit of an Amati fan, because generally the quality of the parts was best. The instructions were good. I wouldn't say the best. And so I'd either buy an Amati or a Caldercraft kit, because I thought those were two. And I quite like the CNC of the Caldercraft kits. It gives you some extra dimensions in those wood parts. Also gives you a load of sawdust in your box. First thing you do is hoover a Caldercraft kit. But yeah, I like those two brands. Other brands within the wood sphere, Billings boats, I wouldn't touch again. I've had some of their kits. I've moved most of them on. I've got 2 left, both of which are started, so I can't move on. Artesina Latina, I dip in and out of. Other brands that I haven't ever built, but I've seen, so I'm a bit dubious about. But if the subject matter was something I felt like I wanted to build and the scale was right and the cost was right, then I would tackle most brands. I wouldn't want to build a Billings boat kit. I just wouldn't. I think they're probably the worst in terms of quality of parts and what have you, but just not for me. I know other people build them and are happy. There's only ever been one wooden ship kit that defeated me, and that's what's very different about wood and plastic. When it comes to wood, I always succeed. The model always gets finished, with the exception of one. Whereas I've got some Shelf Queens, but that's slightly different. That came out of when I was supporting a part work company and I was building them for them, and they're still in my attic, but they're probably going to go at some point. So wooden ships that I've built for myself, unlike plastic models where I've got a lot of models that never got finished, one reason or another, and some that can't be finished because they've been disposed of, Lysander and various other things. I think Lysander's the only one that I started building on the channel that I've not finished and got rid of. Because we've got a new Lysander from Airfix and it's nice. But the only wooden kit they ever built me was bettered me, I should say, was the Artesina Latina Titanic lifeboat, which was just the clinker. It was right in the early days. I think it was the second wooden kit I ever attempted, and I attempted to do a clinker boat without realising how difficult it was. And in my confidence, maybe even hubris, I tackled the clinker with CA glue, and yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly, and I no longer have the kit. And it never got finished. But one day I might go back to it just to prove to myself that, I won't be defeated, but I have no inkling to do that yet. So there you go. Do you have brand loyalty? And if so, why? And if you don't, why? And if you have sort of type loyalty, why is that? What spurs you to buy certain kits from certain manufacturers? I'd love to know. Put it in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, because it really helps me out and it costs you nothing. And only a tiny proportion of you are going to do it. So even if one more of you just hits the like button, then that's a big help for me. So please consider hitting the like button. Hope you enjoyed today's table talk. We've got lots more topics coming up that I want to talk about. So thank you very much for looking in. Have a great week, and until I next see you, you enjoy your modelling. Bye for now. It does make a really good coaster though.